to another episode of Cavanaugh's Corner. I'm Andrew Cavanaugh. I wanted to say thank you for coming back to the channel today. And as you can tell by my ridiculous multi-layered outfit, today I'm going to be reviewing another Steven Seagal direct-to-video piece of just... I don't even know what to call it. This is just a really bad movie. Today I'm going to be talking about a movie called Cartels, or as it's known in other parts of the world, Killing Salazar. This movie actually premiered on European television last year, but for whatever reason we're only getting it on video in the United States now. It's kind of weird, but whatever. I rented this movie on iTunes. I'm sure there's other ways to view it, but that's the way I viewed it. And I gotta admit, this is not a good movie. This is definitely not as bad as Contract to Kill, which is the last Seagal movie I reviewed. Definitely not as bad as that is, but I will say Seagal is definitely not the main role in this movie. This movie could be basically sued for false advertisement, because Seagal is shown, like even in the trailers, as being the main guy, and he's really only in like very select parts of the movie. He's at the beginning, he's at the end, and he's sprinkled through the middle because the way the story is told, it's told in flashback. And Seagal is basically a DEA agent that is interviewing Luke Goss. Now, Luke Goss is the main actor in the film. He's basically the main guy. But he is really the one that is the main star of the film, I should say. Seagal basically takes a back seat to him through most of the movie, and really, the movie is actually really pretty boring. The story of the film, if you can even call it that, is that Salazar is this drug lord who is pretty much like this kingpin drug lord guy, and they capture him near the beginning of the film. Actually, they quote-unquote kill him. And then, for whatever reason, that turns out to be a setup, and then they have to protect him. So they bring him to this hotel, which really doesn't make much sense at all. It kind of makes sense later on in the film, but they bring him to this big hotel, and the movie really seems to be like an advertisement for this hotel throughout the second part of the film, but it is what it is. It then kind of becomes like a die-hard, rip-off clone kind of movie where these guys are coming to get Salazar. They're coming to kill Salazar because of the deal he made to kind of become like a rat for the DEA. It's a really stupid movie. The main crime of the movie is very similar to the main crime of Contract to Kill, and that is that the movie moves incredibly slowly. It is a very slow, boring film. Most of the movie is expositional dialogue where the characters are talking about situations that they're currently in, and it really is extremely poorly written. It is so boring. The movie is mostly padding, which is not good. A lot of times it's a lead up to a very short action scene, and then, again, it just kind of goes on forever. The movie was only, I think, 95 minutes long, and there was probably a good 10 to 15 minutes of action throughout the entirety of the film. And again, the action in this one is okay. It's not bad, but it's really not very good either. It's very small scale, and it's also not very exciting to watch. Even Seagal, in the two real scenes that he's in, and he really is only in two scenes of action throughout the whole film, at the beginning and at the end, he's very much just kind of like sleepwalking through these action scenes. It's not very exciting to watch, and I gotta be honest with you, I kind of tuned out about midway through the movie. It really is that boring. Luke Goss does the best that he can in this film, but even he can't really save how badly written this movie is. The acting in it is okay. I mean, it's all right. It's nothing special. I didn't get any sort of chemistry between any of the actors. It was just it's a very cold, slow movie. The other thing I wanted to talk about is Keone Waxman, the director of this film, who has directed a lot of Steven Seagal movies, a lot of Steven Seagal movies. His direction in this is, again, very lackluster. A lot of shots are kind of seemingly just put together in post. The editing in this movie, there is some really weird editing in this movie as well. As I mentioned earlier, the story is kind of told in flashback form, and it really doesn't do much for the pacing of the story other than just to kind of stretch it out as long as humanly possible. Seagal is kind of the one that's doing the interrogating of Luke Goss during these scenes, and except for one part where he starts swearing like non-stop at Luke Goss, it's very, very boring. It's very uninteresting. And the fact that the editing in the movie is also kind of not that well put together, it didn't really lend for a very good movie experience. I found myself very, very bored. I wouldn't say bored as I was with Contract to Kill. Contract to Kill is probably the most boring action movie I've ever seen, but this is a very close second. Again, another problem with the movie is the fact that the plot is a little too overcomplicated. For such a simple storyline, they really do try to put too many twists and turns and double crosses in it. It's clear that Luke Goss and Steven Seagal are the heroes of the story, but even Luke Goss's character, morale-wise, is not really quite there. And if you watch the movie, you'll understand what I'm saying. I don't want to spoil the movie as bad as it is. I still don't want to spoil it. But the ending is kind of a morally ambiguous one, and I didn't really like it. It didn't really go with the character, and it really kind of left me disappointed. Very disappointed. Seagal is very underutilized here. He's not the actor that is compelling when he's sitting down and talking. You really want to see him just beat people up, and you really only get to see him do that twice throughout the entirety of the film. Again, at the beginning and at the end. It's not very good usage of the guy. It's not really his strong suit. And also, as I mentioned in my Contract to Kill review, he's not a very enthralling actor. So if he's not in an action scene, he's really useless. And the other thing I wanted to mention is the fact that, not to make fun of the guy again, because a lot of people make fun of his weight, but he is wearing a lot of gear through most of the movie, like bulletproof vests and big jackets and, like hats with glasses. Again, he wears his yellow, orange tinted glasses throughout the entirety of the film again, so I'm wearing my sunglasses too. It's kind of become my motif of these Seagal reviews, so I'm going to keep wearing them. But basically, he looks like the Goodyear blimp in this movie. With all the gear he's wearing, he looks so big. Seagal just looks so incredibly big. You just can't believe he's capable of doing like any sort of action scenes anymore. It's almost like the scenes where he does do action, he literally looks like he's walking onto the set, does a few moves, and then probably goes home for the day. Like, he just does not look like he's cut out for that anymore. But again, just not a very good movie overall. Very slow, not a lot of action, a whole ton of expositional dialogue padding again. So in the end, I'm giving Cartels or Killing Salazar, depending on where you are in the world, I'm giving it a 2 out of 5. Again, not a very good movie. I don't recommend you watch it or rent it. If you're a real diehard Steven Seagal fan, it may be worth your time, but even then, it's not really worth it. It is a lot better than Contract to Kill, though. I will say that. That movie was atrocious. This one here is just one step above. But anyway, until next time, my name's Andrew Cavanaugh. I wanted to say thank you for coming back to Cavanaugh's Corner. And as always, take it away, Steve.
I love the fuck out of cookies.